Hey there everyone, it's Val, and welcome back to Fallout 4 Rebuilding Avalon. This episode, which is 3.050, is pre-recorded, and it will be played for your enjoyment at the appropriate time. I hope you enjoy it, and I will see you later in the stream. I think, Danse, it's time for that talk that I mentioned to you before. It's gonna be a long talk, so you might want to make sure that you have some snacks and something to drink. And, well, it's gonna be interesting. Alright, I'll just wait a moment for him to go get his snack. I'm sure it won't take him very long. Oh, looks like he's ready. Alright, let's go. I have just the place... Danse. Oh, I have just the place, Danse, for the conversation. So come with me. Where's... Ah, Ronnie.
Howdy.
Hi. I'm gonna be having a chat with Danse in the castle tunnels, so if you wouldn't mind fending off anybody that is wanting to go down there for the next while
Lost
until we
track of how many blisters
emerge.
I got.
That... I don't really recall trying to count them myself, but okay. So anyway, yeah, if you can just keep an eye, and we need our privacy for the next while, so thank you. I'm sure she wonders what we're going to be doing, but... That's not any of her business. Right, Danse. Let's go away from the skeleton of the poor person that was trapped down here. I need to gather my thoughts for a moment, Danse, so you might want to make sure that snack and drink are handy now if you are so inclined. Well, let's see how to start. Well, Danse, I have a lot that I need to talk to you about. And we haven't had a real good chance since I got back to do that. And I hope... Yeah, feel free to wander around. That's fine. Just try not to go too far, okay? Or maybe I'll just follow you. I know you're not much for talking, and I'm not either. I mean, about myself, really. But I need to tell you what happened in Far Harbor. You know, I sent you that holotape talking about that I'd be going with Nick, and we're going to a place up north, and it's called Far Harbor, looking for Kasumi Nakano, who was basically her father sent a message to Nick asking for help. And it turned out when we looked around the place that she wasn't actually lost, she left. She came to believe, because of some dreams she had, that she was a synth. And you know how that feels. Well, the thing was, is I don't know if she believed she was a synth before she started talking to someone from Far Harbor or after. So I don't really know if she is a synth or isn't. And it doesn't really matter, to be honest, because there's a soul in her body, whether that body was manufactured in the Institute or whether it was manufactured in a human body. Because really, it's still being manufactured, even though most people don't think of it that way, do they? Oh, anyway, I'm getting a little off topic here. I was talking to Nick before we left on the boat, just after I had recorded that holotape and sent it off. And he told me he's we became quite close friends. Just to reassure you there, we're friends. We became close, and he told me a lot about his past, and I will tell you a little bit of it, but I mean, it is his story and it's his to share. And I did tell you that I hoped you two would become friends because, not because he's a synth and you're a synth, albeit of different generations, but because you're both people whom I care about a lot. Nick is a friend, and you? I'm going to tell you, Danse, something that has been very difficult for me to say. But I do love you. The L word. I know you find it hard to say too. But I do. And I don't know why before. Actually, I guess some ways I do know why I found it so hard to say that to you before. And maybe by the time I finish telling you about what happened in Far Harbor, you'll understand more about why it was hard for me to tell you that before. And why I can now. And why now I have allowed myself to become physically closer to you. Right. Let me see. Right. Nick, on the boat. When we were getting ready to leave on the boat, and Nick started to tell me about his past, and he said to me something that I would like to repeat to you because it means a lot to me. He said, now I'm speaking as Nick here, it took me a long time to realize that home is where you make it. With some time and effort, this place can be home for you too. And when I was thinking about that, I realized what Nick said, he's right. Home, this place is feeling like home more and more. And especially, I think, because I have you. Because I found someone to love. And I think the fact that you are part of the reason of what makes Commonwealth home to me is very important. And I'm not quite sure fully why yet. It just struck me that part of what makes it home is you. Well, anyway, enough of that sort of sappy stuff. Let's get on with the story, shall we? Right, Far Harbor. It was a strange place, Danse. They had this radioactive fog that would come and go, and I guess over time it would come and go more or less, and right now it was everywhere. And they had to use things called fog condensers to even make it livable. And it was, you go into these fog, it's radioactive fog, and there was monsters that lived in the fog. You think the rad scorpions and stuff here are bad? Well, there was some worse things in the fog there, and I'm sure we'll visit Far Harbor sometime and you'll get to meet them yourself. They were very interesting. But anyway, I'm getting off topic again. Right, so we got off the boat at Far Harbor. We met Captain Avery. This lady was basically in charge of the settlement, which is called Far Harbor. We also met Alan the Jerk, who seemed to he really hated the children of Adam that were on the island. And he wasn't so fond of synths either, as I recall. But he was the kind of guy who hates everything except himself, if you know what I mean. And then there was the Mariner. That's a sad tale in of itself. But, well, anyway, I can't tell you about every little thing because we'll be here for hours. And I don't know if Ronnie will be able to keep anybody from coming down here for that long, because I did ask her, for a little quiet time down here. Okay, so anyway, we arrived at Far Harbor. Immediately, Captain Avery asked Nick and I to help with the defense of what they call the wall. And there was basically some of the fog creatures coming in and attacking. So we helped out with that, and we helped out with a few other things as well. And along the way, we learned that there was 3 factions on that island. There was Far Harbor, which of course was the settlers that had basically been pushed back off of the rest of the island to Far Harbor. Acadia, which I told you about in the second holotape, which is the refuge of the synths. And their leader wants peace with both other factions. And then there was the Children of the Atom. And as I came to learn, they basically wanted everybody in Far Harbor, the humans, dead. The synths, they had... and they didn't really care, as far as I could tell, about the synths there, but... Anyway. So that's what I picked up there. After we helped out, Captain Avery told us that old Longfellow, this old guy, would take us to Acadia, which of course was the thing that we were interested in checking out first. So that's where we went. We followed old Longfellow, who is a character. I think when you meet him, you'll find him quite amusing. In a good way. He's a nice old guy. Likes his drink. He took us to Acadia. Through the fog. That was fun. Anyway, the synth refuge of Acadia. I'm sure you've been anxious to hear more details about what it is. It's run by for lack of a better term, a Generation 2.5 synth, like Nick. Mechanical, but with the advanced brain. And his name was Dima. And he considers himself Nick's brother because they were both prototypes of the same kind. And the only difference between them was that Nick was given the recorded memories of a detective from pre-war named Nick Valentine. And Dima was not. Dima had to basically start from scratch himself. And Dima had saved Nick, actually. Nick had forgotten that because I guess they can only record so much in the brains. It only has so much capacity. And Nick had lost that memory that Dima had actually saved Nick from the Institute. And Dima, he wanted peace between all 3 factions. And he asked us to help out Acadia and help out his lieutenants, Faraday and Chase. Well, I don't know if he called them lieutenants, but, you know, that's what it meant. And then after that, recover his memory archives, which were memories he had deliberately recorded and offloaded from his consciousness, I guess, in the old submarine that they'd given to the Children of the Atom as sort of a peace offering between the 2 factions before they moved to Acadia, which was an old, I think, observatory on the island. Well, Nick was very shocked, to say the least, to meet Dima, who sounds a lot like Nick, by the way, as well as looking like him. Well, I imagine originally he looked a lot like now he looks less like Nick. But Nick learned a lot about his past there. Hopefully he'll be able to remember this for a while. That's kind of strange, thinking he can only have so much in his memories. Anyway, getting sidetracked again, aren't I? Right, so we decided, Nick and I, well, I guess mostly it was me, that we needed to basically become friendly with all 3 of the factions and see if we could, like Dima, I approved of his desire to broker peace between all 3 of them because I did not want to have to wipe out another faction, another group of people, however misguided. Unless they're raiders, then I have no problem. But in order to do that, we had to be on a friendly footing with everybody. So we we did some things for Acadia. We helped out Faraday by getting some disk memory drives that he could use for Dima, um, to put his memories into, so he had more at his fingertips. He can't go anywhere.
Finding a quiet spot in the Commonwealth is a rare occurrence.
Yes, it is, and I hope it's quiet enough that you're able to hear what I'm saying. But yeah, Dima, he was connected to the machines, the memory, and he can't actually leave, which is kind of a disadvantage when you think about it. But maybe he can disconnect himself if he really needs to, but that means losing a lot of his memories. Anyway, so we helped out Faraday with that. We helped out Chase. We had to find a lost synth, somebody that was supposed to be coming to the refuge. Unfortunately, that did not end well. The synth had run out into the fog, and, well, there's a lot of bad things out in the fog. But after we did all that, Dima then said that he trusted us, and he wanted us to get some of his important, vital memories out of the old submarine. Apparently, when they left the old submarine, he detached himself and left a lot of the memories there that were older ones that he had offloaded, for various reasons, which he couldn't remember because he'd done that then. And I agreed that we would go and get them. Actually, it turned out there was more than, you couldn't just pick something up and go. Which meant that we now worked out very well. Now we needed to go to the Children of the Atom. And they had named this submarine the Nucleus. And, well, when we went there, we met a fellow named Granzilla Richter outside, and he said before we could go in, we had to do a quest. I had to go to a waterfall, I had to drink from it, and basically see what transpired. So I did that. I went to this spring alone, without Nick. Or was Nick there? Honestly, I can't even remember now because, well, you'll understand when I explain what happened next. I'm not sure what was in the water, but it affected me. And I'm not just talking physically, I mean mentally. And thank God it wasn't a permanent change. But in this altered state, I saw a spirit. And this spirit was not a hallucination. And you'll understand when I get to that point as to why I know it was not a hallucination. This hallucination has been seen by other people. Well, actually, it's not a hallucination. The spirit, has been seen by other people, and she was called the Mother of the Fog. And she led me to this place. I guess this was the quest that I had to do. Led me to this place. And I got this kind of a little totem thing to bring back. And once I found it, she vanished, like she was gone. And I returned to normal once I retrieved this item, which was in a highly irradiated area, so I didn't stay there for very long. And we brought this back to the Nucleus. And to say the least, they were rather shocked that we came back. And apparently the fact that I'd seen the Mother of the Fog made me basically a chosen of the... I'm going to call him a god. I don't know if he actually exists. The Mother of the Fog exists because that spirit, which apparently led the Children of the Atom to the sub in the first place, when it was occupied by the synths, Dima's synth refuge. And I've totally lost track what I was saying. Alright, well. Sometimes doing that to Danse does that to me. Looking at Danse does that to me, and I'm obviously this explanation is draining me more than I expected. Okay, where was I? Right, Mother of the Fog. We came back, and apparently, the fact that I'd seen her, I was told that this meant that I was the chosen of Adam. That's right, that's where I got off on a tangent, because I wasn't sure if Adam actually exists or not. But anyway, that is a mark. They consider that a mark of being chosen of Adam. So that made them decide that I was, a-okay, and I was okay to go into the refuge and or into their nucleus and basically join them. Although you know me, I will join something, but if I find out they're asshats, that's it. So I went into the nucleus. I met another fellow who is from what I can tell, was a big problem, because of course we have met a resolution which I will be getting to. His name is what the heck was his title? Dang it. High Confessor Tectus. Yes, High Confessor Tectus. His goal in life, apparently, is to wipe all the humans out of Far Harbor. He was the source of all the problems with the children of the Atom on Far Harbor. Apparently, the previous High Confessor was not an asshat like he is. So I had to basically do a few little tasks around just to convince everybody that, I had good intentions. So Tectus asked me to spy on a follower, and basically I did, but I did it my own way, and the follower is safe, and Tectus was satisfied. Richter wanted me to hunt down a lady named Sister Gwyneth, who had some kind of weird thing happen to her one day when she decided that Adam didn't exist, and she was now going to worship what she calls the nothingness. It's not that she's worshipping nothing, she's worshipping capital N nothing, if you understand the difference. And I was supposed to kill her, but I did it my own way, and she is off the island, and everybody is happy. And then there was the fellow in the nucleus who was starving himself to death to get closer to Adam. And I was asked to, convince him that perhaps this wasn't the best way to do things. And because I was considered the chosen of Adam, I was able to do that. And so he's now eating. He's not going to die, at least not right away, and not from starvation. So we sorted that out. So after that, and we talked to Tectus again, and he was happy with the way things went, and Richter was happy. So at that point, I decided it was safe to go into the area where the memory archives were of Demas. This was protected by a lot of hardware, not by the children of the Atom, and I suppose Dima must have set it up before he left. But we had to make our way through there, shooting a lot of sentry bots, and there was a lot of hardware flung at us. But we made our way through, right to the point where there was this console. And this console had this sort of a helmet thing that came down when I accessed it, and it literally connected me to Dima's memory archives. It was like I was in it, and it was very surreal, let me tell you. There were blocks, everything was blocky, and I could move some of them, and I had to find the memories that he wanted me to find. Well, I don't know about you, but I need a drink of water here. There is going to be a lot more to tell you. I hope you're not finding this boring, because all of this is leading up to something. Actually, maybe I should, before I have my drink of water, tell you that all the experiences that I'd had, both with Nick meeting his brother, and I've come to understand more, both from Dima and Nick, and another bunch of, well, people who put their brains in robots, which I didn't really talk about, but which was sort of the reverse of a synth, if you think about it. But all those experiences helped me realize more what it must have been like for you to realize that you were a synth. And I know that I can't ever be exactly in your shoes because I'm not a synth, but I can understand in a way that I don't want to talk about just this moment, but I will. I will later on once I've finished telling you about Far Harbor, and maybe you will be able to understand a bit more about what it's like to be in my shoes. Because while we can't ever really truly know what it's like to be the other person, I love you, and I want to be able to understand as much as I can. And I think I do better than I did before I went to Far Harbor. I know it's been so hard for you, Danse. Right, well, I think I'm gonna go and have that drink. Let's see. I hope I brought some water. Didn't even think about that when I convinced Nick to come down here with me. Actually, I would like something to eat too. Oh, that's good. Purified water. I would like some purified water, please. Now my throat doesn't feel so parched. All right. Just give me a moment to gather my thoughts, Danse. Guides, I know I haven't been talking to you, dear advisors, but this is a very important talk that I need to have with Danse, and I'm sorry for the things you have been saying that I haven't been paying attention to you. But once I finish this conversation with Danse, I will talk to you about what you've said. But I need to get this out, and I need to get it out my own way, if that's okay. Thank you for understanding. All right. Oh, Danse has wandered off. I guess he... All right, let's find Danse.
Laser rifle in my power armor, and I'll take on the world.
I knew you'd like that armor. It does feel a lot like power armor, doesn't it? But not quite so bulky. Not quite all the features either, but still very protective. And you look good in it. Right. So where did I leave off on my story? Oh, yes. So I put this headset on. I left first because I was so shocked about what happened. But then, after being... If I remember correctly, we were jumped by an assaultron. I think that was what it was. That was lovely. Once we dealt with that issue, then I put the headset back on, and I entered Dima's memories, and it was really bizarre. It was like I was in there walking around in it, and I could pick things up, but I didn't see myself. Like, I can look down and see my feet and my hands. I couldn't in there. And I had to solve like these puzzles in order to get to his memories. I guess they were basically his security protection, in case somebody who wasn't supposed to be in there got in there. Because as soon as I got in, a message played from him that I had brought with me that explained what I needed to do. Like, not in detail, but how to go about solving these puzzles. So I recovered the various memories, and some of them were very shocking in nature, and others were just basically information and location of pieces of information or physical items that I should probably get to keep them out of the hands of Ass Hattery. And I did do that after I went around to these places. And in fact, that's where your armor came from. One of those things was a list of basically pre-war armor locations. And I made a point of going around with Nick and collecting them all up because I knew from the pieces I'd seen that it would just be perfect for you. And I'm so glad you liked them. Okay, I think I'm avoiding the shocking part. Right. We found out from his memories that Dima had murdered Captain Avery. And the Captain Avery that we met, that was a volunteer synth that he had replaced the memories of with ones from Captain Avery. Because the original Captain Avery was not willing to be peaceful. I never met that Captain Avery. And I will admit I was very shocked when I found out what Dima had done. And when we confronted him with it, and gave him the copies of his memories that we'd recovered, he was shocked too. And he realized that he hadn't been able to cope with having that memory, and that's why he had offloaded that particular one. And after thinking about it for a little bit, I realized that nobody's perfect. And while I may not have chosen to take the path that he did, I have done things that I wish could have been done another way, but took what I thought was the best way at the time, as much troubling as it was, like the Institute, for example. I did not want to have to blow that up. I was worried about the people that would die, and the synths that would die, and the humans that would die, because people, to me, I want to mean synths and humans because both have souls. I know you don't know why I believe that, but I do, and I know it. More than believe it, I know it. And that troubled me, but it was the only solution. And as it turned out, we were able to save some, and that is a small consolation for that. But so how could I look at Dima and condemn him for what he had felt was the only way out? He didn't go on a mass killing spree. He did what he felt he needed to bring peace. And I can understand that, even if I don't know if I would have chosen the same thing. So, I will admit, though, that when I had provided him with all the other information about the Children of the Atom and whatnot, the fact that he then wanted me to kill High Confessor Tectus so that he could basically do the same thing again, replace Tectus with a volunteer synth who was willing to be peaceful, or like to lead them, the Children of the Atom, there to peace, that was troubling, to say the least. But I agreed to do it, with the mental caveat to myself that if there was another way to accomplish the same goal, I was going to find it and do it. So, I won't go into the things that we had to do, the information we had to collect, but in the end result was we got some information, we went to talk to Tectus, and I didn't have to kill him. I convinced him to leave the island. So yes, he's gone somewhere else, and he's gonna be an asshat there. But as best I could tell, although he had been responsible for some asshattery, I don't know how much of it he was directly responsible for, poisoning of water sources with radiation, for example, or how much of it was being done on their own by his rather fanatical followers, which of course he encouraged. So the fact that I was able to talk him into leaving the island means at some point we may have to deal with him again, but perhaps, just perhaps, his experiences on the island might, especially after what we found out and that allowed us to convince him to leave, might amend his views slightly to be a little less wipe everybody else out kind of thing. I don't know. But I went back, me and Nick went back to Dima, told him that the task was done, Tectus was gone, and the next time we went, the volunteer synth Tectus was now there, who could lead them to peace, and so we brokered peace at a much smaller cost than peace in Commonwealth. There's always a price to pay, isn't there? I guess if you minimize the price, that's the best you can do, huh? So these were hard decisions. Dima's decisions, my decisions, based on what happened there. And after that, I know I'm kind of leaving that hanging, but we will get back to that a little bit. After that, I left with Nick after we collected up the pieces of armor for you. And Nick had a personal task that he wanted to do that had to do with his, well, the human Nick Valentine's past. And I went ahead and helped him with that. And after discussing it with him, he decided to stay on Far Harbor at Longfellow's cabin, actually, and basically get to know Dima better, because he really was the closest thing to family that he had. But, right. Now comes the part that's going to be very difficult for me to talk to you about, because this isn't something I normally talk about out loud. And in fact, after I tell you about it, you may very well not want to be with me. I don't want to think about that. Or you'll think I'm crazy, and I'm not sure which is worse. But I'm not crazy. Right. You're willing to listen? All right. I don't even know how to start. Well, you know my name is Avalon. Avalon Keen. And that I was frozen in Vault 111. And that the family that I had pre-war was killed. Well, my husband was killed. And Sean, my son, was kidnapped from that vault and grew up to become the Institute's father person. And that the Sean that's here now is basically a copy of him as a child, but he is a synth, obviously. Well, this is going to sound very strange to you, but think of it as being how, in a way, I can understand some of what it's like to find out that you were not born in the body that you're in, but you were placed there. Because that's what happened to me. I'm not a synth, but my soul was placed in this body just before we had to go to the vault, but just before the bombs fell. And at the time that happened, I couldn't remember anything about my past life. Because souls have many lives, Danse. They live many lives in many bodies. And that's why your soul was in a human body in other lifetimes. I know it was. And that's why when you say that you're just a machine, that you're not real, you are. You're as real as I am. You just have a body that was produced in a different way. Just as the body I'm in was produced in a different way for this soul, me. I know you're looking at me like I'm bonkers. I wish I had more knowledge. I think I need to drink a little bit of water here. But let's see if I can keep going a little bit more. I'm on a roll. Before Danse continues to think I'm totally insane. Well, you've met Mama Murphy. And you know how I've told you that she sees the future when she's on drugs. And she used to be able to see the future before she made herself stop because of her husband at the time, because he had upset him. But she used to be able to see it without drugs. That ability, that kind of ability, is what I have, and it's called being a medium. And it means that that's the souls that I was talking to you about, the soul that I am, I hear them in my head. I hear people, beings that I call guides because they're sort of higher up in the hierarchy, which I don't really understand, to be honest, but there's a hierarchy. And then there's the more regular Joes like us called the advisors. And they can't make me do anything. I can tune them out if I need to, so I'm not crazy. But sometimes when I've been quiet and staring off into space, I've actually been talking to them. And okay, you're still thinking I'm nuts here. I can tell it. I can tell from the expression on your face. I'm not. I swear I'm not. Right, well, let me get back to... I've... God, I don't know how this is going. I'm a walk-in soul. The body, the woman that lived, the soul that was in me, in this body before, she's moved on. It's like what happens when people die, synths or humans, your soul moves on to the next stage, which sometimes is another life. And I wish I could give you more information about what that exactly means, but I don't know. I just know that you live many times, and that when you die, you move on. You don't just disappear. You don't just go away. It's not like the end, nothing else. So apparently what can happen sometimes is that a soul will have tasks, and they'll finish those tasks in the lifetime that they're in, and then they're ready to move on. And a soul can be chosen to walk into that body and basically take it over, just like a synth, being the soul that you are, being awoken in the synth body that you're in. And while you've been given false memories, which sucks a lot, the fact is it's the same kind of thing. You're a walk-in soul just like I am. You just walked into a different situation. But all I remember from that time is that a voice of a being whose name, I don't know if this guide is male or female, but she's higher up in the hierarchy. I'll say she, but I don't know if that's correct. She's higher up in the hierarchy than the guides that I normally talk to. Guide de Hasnan and Guide Tex Cub SF and Guide Greater Raider. I heard this voice, and she said to me that my tasks were not done in the life that I had before I died in my past life to this one, and that I needed to understand and process what had happened, and I needed to continue my journey, and that to do so I needed, the best way to do it was to walk into this already living body that was available. I think there was a lot more to the story, but that's the part that they told me. The reason that I think there was a lot more is there's so many things that happened here in the Commonwealth that what's the word? It resonated so well with what, as I came to remember and recover the memories that I had from that past life, that I think this was planned, that I be in this life from maybe from before my past life. I don't know. But all I can tell you is that when I opened the eyes of this body, Avalon Keen, I didn't remember who I was, except that I was now called Avalon Keen. I didn't remember anything about my past life at that point. All I knew was that I had a husband named Nathan. I had a child named Sean that was a baby. And we had a life. And I worked in some kind of capacity with law, and he used to be in the military, and that's all they told me. That's all I knew. And literally, before I could even begin to assess my surroundings, and they seemed so strange, so clean, so untouched. And I didn't understand then why it felt like that, but it did. But then, like literally, like I was there an hour maybe, and the warning about the bombs came. And we were running to the vault, and we were frozen. And then the next thing I remember was being woken and seeing Sean being kidnapped, and the man this body's husband, Nathan, being shot. And then I had to figure out how to live my life here. In this body, and figure out what my path was. Just like you have to figure out your path now. I mean, you've figured out part of it, you decided that I'm part of it, and I hope that decision isn't going to be unmade because of what I'm telling you. But it's just so hard to explain. You had memories. They were false ones, granted. But I didn't have anything. And it was hard. And so I decided that even though Sean wasn't my child, I still felt compelled to help. But I didn't want to help anybody else. The person I was then, Danse, when we first met, I was still very much the person that woke up, that person that was still extremely influenced by my past life that at that point I didn't remember any of. but it still influenced me a lot, and it still does in a lot of ways. But at least I understand it better now. Over time, and most of it happened before I came to see you again and ask you if you wanted to travel with me. But I did remember a lot. They were bad dreams. Some of them were dreams that were bad dreams. And some of them I remembered as I did those things, those events that, like I said, that resonated with the things that I'd done in my past life. I did terrible things, Danse. Not this body, not in this body, but in that life. But I had good reasons. I had very good reasons. At least in that time, but let me tell you, in that past life, when people talk about me having lost my family now in the Commonwealth and talk about my husband and my child, the people that I think about aren't Nathan, although I'm sure he was a good man. And it's not Sean, the human, not Sean the synth. But the people I think about are that family that I had in my past life, because they're the ones I loved. And I don't even know their names. And their faces are starting to fade from my memory. I still feel the love just as strong, but their faces, I've been having dreams where their faces aren't clear anymore, and I can't remember what they look like. And the best I can tell is that it means that what they look like wasn't important. It's not important now. What's important is their souls. And I don't understand why I'm having these dreams. And I guess in a way, I'm telling you all this because I'm hoping maybe I'll understand better what's going on. And maybe you will have something to say that will help. You're probably wondering what the terrible things are that happened in that life. I've told my guides and my advisors about it when it happened, when I remembered. So you'll have to excuse me if this is very difficult. But I'm having to remember them again, and some of it I've been trying not to think about too much. You remember? You told me about your friend? And how he got taken by the super mutants and became infected with a virus, and you had to kill him. That things happen to us that are done by others, and what we do after that is what has to be done. That family, I wish I knew their names. I had a little girl. She was older than Sean. I can see the memory. Even though the faces are blurred now, I can see her being held by my husband of that life. And her talking to her bear, and them laughing. And then And then I remember what happened to them. They were murdered, Danse. They were tortured, and they were killed by raiders. And so you hate super mutants for what they did to your friend. And I hate raiders for what they did to my family. And what they did to me. Because they tortured me too, and they thought they had killed me. Me and my friends. I saw them tortured too. It was... I can't even begin to describe the pieces of memory that I have from what happened. But one thing I remember, oh, so very clearly, was lying on the ground waiting to die, leaning against the cold, dead body of my husband, and holding in my arms the body with flesh that was cold and clammy, and that should have been warm and alive, of my little girl, and waiting to die. Because the raiders left me for dead. I remember how much of my body hurt, and how much of it I couldn't even feel, and how weak and my thoughts of that time that I remember were so chaotic and broken. What they had done, I think, broke me. And when I didn't die, and I don't remember why I didn't or how it happened that I didn't, but the next memories I have are of me practicing shooting with a sniper rifle and having those same broken, chaotic thoughts. And it wasn't the guides or the advisors, because I heard them in that life too. But I'd blocked them out. Whatever happened to my mind because of the raiders and what they'd done, it cut me off. Like Mama Murphy had been cut off from her ability. And so I didn't have them to help me clarify things. And it's like looking through a broken mirror when I see the memories from that time. But I can see and feel myself aiming at that target and doing it over and over again. Because I had one thing left to do in that life. The reason I hadn't died, I hunted down the raiders. I hunted them all down, Danse. Every single one of them. I remembered all their faces and I hunted them all down. And the ones that I remembered torturing my family and my friends and me, I tortured them too. And then I shot them. And the others that didn't do any torturing, I still hunted them down, and I shot them. And I tried to make them all clean kills. But I hunted down every single one of them. And when they were all dead, I was done. I went back to where my family died and I dug a hole. Danse, I dug a hole and I stood in it and I shot myself. Because I was done. And I was so glad to be going to be with my family. Except I didn't. Instead, I woke in this body as Avalon Keen. And I was in a strange world And then the bombs fell, and I woke up here. In Danse, I felt so alone. And if it hadn't been for those advisors and the guides that I still don't know if you believe that they're real, but if it hadn't been for them, maybe I would have broken here too. I don't know. But Danse, what I did in that past life, I don't know exactly why it felt like the thing that I had to do. But if I hadn't been broken, if I'd had my guides and my advisors like I do now at that time, what bothers me the most is that maybe I wouldn't have descended to torturing to the raiders. It doesn't bother me that I hunted them down and shot them because they're raiders, they're murderers. But the fact that I tortured them, that's what bothers me, Danse. That's what's always bothered me since I remembered. And I don't understand how I could descend to that except to say that my mind was not right. And I did what I thought I had to do. But I learned from that, Danse. And I haven't become that way here. You know I haven't. And Danse, I want you to know that you're what makes the Commonwealth feel like home to me. And I can't explain why. But you do. And if after all I've told you, you decide you don't want me to be what makes it home for you, I'll understand. It's not an easy thing. But I'm not the same person I was in that past life. It still affects me. It still affects my decisions. But I've made better decisions here in the Commonwealth. Some of them were very difficult. But the decision to have you in my life, that was the best decision I've made. And I hope, Danse, that once you've had a chance to think over everything I've told you, that you'll still love me. And as for why I couldn't tell you any of this before, I think I had to understand more about what you are going through. And the time in Far Harbor with Dima and with Nick helped me understand more. And I had to understand more about myself too. And I had to be ready to say goodbye to the souls that had been my family in that previous life. Because that was my previous life, Danse. It's not this one. This life is with you. I'll let you think about it. Come talk to me when you're ready. Please. dear advisors. I hope I've done the right thing. But it was time. I had to do this. I had to tell him everything. It was just time.